I'm going to call the regular meeting of Neshoba Regional School Committee to order at 6 p.m. We are meeting via Zoom technology. At this time, would folks rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Get my flag. Oh, not prepared, not prepared. Here we go. Okay. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
and
one nation, under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Thank you. Citizens' comments. I have received one citizen's comment, which I will read. This is from Elise Rodin from Stowe. Since it's Teacher Appreciation Week, it seems especially fitting to start by saying that I am very grateful to all the teachers and staff at Neshoba Regional School District for their hard work getting virtual learning off the ground. Switching to a virtual teaching environment mid-year is an incredible undertaking. According to Dr. Anthony Fauci, we will have coronavirus in the fall, and Dr. Robert Redfield, director of the CDC, warns that the second wave of coronavirus could actually be even more difficult. The takeaway, there's a very significant chance that schools could be teaching virtually again in the fall or winter of the 2021 school year. In light of this, it's especially important that we continually improve virtual learning. We need to consider the most effective ways to teach when we cannot share a physical space. The better our virtual learning model, the less students will fall behind this year, and the more success they will have should we need to switch to a virtual teaching model again. I am particularly concerned about our special needs students. They are one of our more vulnerable populations. We need to reevaluate the way we are administering therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, etc. For the most part, therapists are sending parents ideas and parents are standing in as pseudo-therapists. Parents are not therapists and don't have their specialized training. Even with support from the therapists, parent administered therapy is generally inferior to therapist-administered therapy. My child normally receives SOP and OT therapy from private providers, and we continue to see these providers via video conference during the crisis. This is known as telehealth. I see what therapists can offer via telehealth, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that I could not provide therapy from a list of activities that would be nearly as effective. I just don't have the specialized skills and abilities of a trained therapist. For example, therapists know when and how to offer help to a struggling student, when to step back and then let them work through a difficult activity, and when to change or modify activities on the fly. I am also concerned about how the lack of telehealth will affect the school budget moving forwards. A number of parents who typically get therapy from the school are turning to out-of-pocket private providers. While I do not intend to do so, I have heard that some parents are going to be seeking reimbursement from the district. It would be more cost-effective for the district to have its on-staff therapists provide telehealth services. It would benefit many special needs students in the district to get telehealth services while our physical schools are closed. Telehealth isn't the same as in-person therapy, but it's arguably the next best thing for most students. There may be hurdles to overcome before telehealth could be implemented, but I think that we as a district are capable of meeting that challenge. I don't expect things to be identical to how they were when schools were physically open. I do ask that we work together to achieve the best possible virtual learning system. I am hopeful that we can improve this brand new way of educating the students in our community to make sure that they can continue to learn and grow. We all want to best serve our community students in this unusual situation. Thank you for your time. Moving on to, before we move on to the regular agenda, I do want to acknowledge that this is Teacher Appreciation Week and also Nurses Appreciation Week. I can't express appropriately my gratitude, admiration, so many things for both our teachers and our nurses this week. In quote unquote normal times, we have an outstanding faculty and professional staff, teachers and nurses, and it is just a testament to them that things, while challenging and new frontier type of things, that they have been working above and beyond while managing their own things that are going on in their own homes to provide the services for our students. So again, on behalf of the school committee, I want to send out appreciation to all of our teachers and all of our nurses. Thank you so much, and please administer some self-care and be well. So the new business. The first item that we have is the school committee meeting calendar. So there are, if you had a chance to look at the calendar, the meetings are still scheduled for Wednesdays. Does anybody have any interest in changing the day of the week that we conduct our meetings? Seeing that there is no interest, I'm going to move along. So typically we have a goals workshop / retreat, the last scheduled meeting in June, and that's June 17th. So I want to, I don't know where we're going to be or what's happening on June 17th, but we have that meeting scheduled. So even if it has to be a virtual meeting, I would like to propose that we start our self-evaluation / goals retreat on the 17th. And even if we have to do it virtually just for an hour or two to get the ball rolling. You may recall last June, before the meeting, we completed a self-evaluation, and then we did work to revise our protocols and set goals for the year. So does anybody have any feelings about doing it, if we have to, on the 17th, having a virtual goals meeting? Would that be okay with everybody?
This is May 17th?
No, June.
June 17th?
It's a scheduled meeting if you look at the
Oh,
calendar.
right, sorry.
Okay. So I just saw Leah's thumbs up. That's actually a good idea, Leah. So thumbs up if that would be okay. On the 17th of June to have a goals / is your thumb up, Joseph? All right, where's Steve? I don't see your thumb up. Okay, all right. So let's plan that. And then as a follow-up in August, I have an August to be determined, perhaps the week of August 24th, and pick a day, but maybe we could do that on June 17th if that's okay with everybody. All right. So then I have for 2021, March 3rd, 2021, the school committee superintendent evaluation workshop. So Alita, could you add that? And I'll make sure we have Dorothy to do that. Okay. So if you've had a chance to review the calendar, does anyone have any other questions? So could I have a motion to adopt the 2021 calendar? Steve, I think you're doing the motions tonight. You got to unmute, Steve. Hello, Steve. Unmute. Attaboy.
I move to adopt the 2020-2021 Neshoba Regional School Committee meeting calendar as presented.
Second?
Second.
Who did that?
I did.
Okay, good. Joseph. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have to,
take-
because we're virtual, do we have to do it roll call,
Yeah,
Alita?
do a roll call, yep.
Oh, my favorite thing. Brett?
Yes.
Kathy, yes. Leah?
Yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
And Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Moving right along. We have the Neshoba Regional High School update starring Steve Cullinane. So Steve, you have 5 minutes. Go.
I don't need 5 minutes. I don't need 5 minutes at all. No.
That's why I love you. Go ahead.
First thing was the handbook. We kept the handbook relatively the same, just because we weren't sure what was going to be happening going forward. We'll naturally change the names around. Probably use the admin team instead of names because we're not sure what that's going to look like.
Okay.
The only thing that really changed in the handbook was some of the stuff that Lesa put in for the nurses, and they changed that to make all the districts the same. So other than that, everything would be the same. I think going forward into next year, being so uncertain, that's going to have to probably change to some extent, and I'm not sure how that's going to work because I don't think we're going to be in the same type of school year that we're normally going to see. So that's one of the concerns there. Our graduation group met this morning and they came up with a pretty good plan, I think, for graduation. Looking at June 14th is their first choice. June 21st will be the second choice. Ultimately, what they're looking to do is have a streaming video to some extent, but they'll have a parade through center of town. They're going to start at the Bolton office park and come through to the high school. Each car will drive up to the front of the building. We'll give them their diploma. The family can get out, take a picture there, and then they'll move forward. We'll do pre-recorded speeches and turn the whole thing into kind of a video that we can then present to everybody else with masks and having everything set up. But that's the tentative plan at this point. Now we're just trying to put it together. We're actually going to do on June 2nd. The senior students are going to come in because they have to turn in their books and they have to pick up their caps and gowns. They have to get their yearbooks and their transcripts and all that kind of stuff. We usually do that during our rehearsal date. But it'll ultimately, it works out perfectly because it's going to be kind of a practice for the coming through to do the graduation thing. So I think that's going to work out really well. We're very excited about that. We had parents and Jamie Tucker ran the committee for the graduation stuff. Parents, teachers, and students were all involved in putting it together, and they did a great job. So I can't say thank you enough to them. What else did I want to talk about? Some of the
prom.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sure, thanks, Brooke. The prom, we only have a junior prom. This year, the juniors didn't get their prom. The prom committee's looking at trying to do a senior prom in the fall, hopefully in October. They're looking at how we're going to make that work. So we'll have a senior prom in the fall and then a junior prom in the spring.
Super.
They're also they're trying to do a virtual prom. Some of the teachers are working on putting together some video stuff, and it looks kind of cool. So they're working to try to keep the kids involved in the stuff. There's some questions about the grading thing. I just wanted to bring that up real quick because the attendance stuff that we're doing is really for us. It's based on it's for the faculty to make sure if we don't have kids that are able to that are participating, we want to be able to reach out to them, find out what's going on with them. So ultimately, it doesn't count for anything. I've sent 2 or 3 things out to parents already with it. It is kind of confusing. If a student, they're only going to mark them on Monday for the previous week. If a student is given an A on that thing there, they haven't participated in that one class at all. If they get a T in that thing there, it's they partially participated, and if there's nothing in that, they participated 100%. They're involved the whole time. And it's really for us. It's for us more than anybody else because it's not going to count towards attendance or anything like that. It's just so that we can find out which kids we need to try to get a hold of to talk to. And it's been pretty good. I've been pretty happy with, for the most part, of the participation of the students. It's done okay.
Okay, thanks. Brooke?
Steve, can you also mention too, I know you and I have talked about the salutatorian and the valedictorian. Can you just touch base on that too, please?
Sure. Yeah. Both of those are based on 7 semesters. So that was already finished before we went out of school. So the first 3 years is 6 semesters. Then the first half of the senior year is the 7th semester. That was already selected. We let them know. I think I told you guys who that was. So that wasn't an issue at all with the closing and all that kind of stuff. So
good. Questions, Mike? Mike, you have to unmute.
Tuesday meeting does that.
Steve, I apologize if I missed this, but I'm wondering, how are we integrating the current model of evaluation with the first 2/3 of the year, which were much more quantitative? In other words, particularly at the high school where we keep track of things like GPA, how are we going to give them a final grade for a particular class?
Their grade is going to, based on what the state guidance has been, their grade is going to be based on the first 2 semesters and then the first semester, and the second semester will be a pass fail, complete, incomplete type of grade.
So there'll be two grades for their final grade?
Yes, a first semester grade and a second semester pass fail grade. Yes.
Got it.
The colleges have been really understanding. They understand the problem when they're in the same situation that we are. To the extent that even the military academies have accepted that they're going to look at this as a blip in the radar, and they're usually not like that. They usually fight for every little thing. So I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to work out well.
Thank you.
Other questions? Leah?
So you guys have decided to kind of, I guess my question is, Q3 was nearing its completion. And I know that some kids just need to get some momentum and their grade actually starts to climb. So Q3 is not going to be figured in at all, though?
We're gonna accept missing work until June 1st for Q3. But we're based on looking at the students' grades in Q3, it would have hurt more students than it would have helped. And we're trying to help as many as we can. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that it would have helped them more so, but it was about 75 to 80% of the students were at grade and finishing that third quarter. A lot of kids are trying to work to get stuff done. They didn't get that opportunity to get that stuff done because we didn't have the end of the third quarter. That kind of hurt a lot of people. So kids may have been looking to get stuff done a lot in the end of the third quarter, but never got the opportunity. So it would have hurt more than helped.
Okay. Other questions for Steve? Elaine?
For the handbook, and I apologize if I missed this, there's a lot going on, obviously. Some of the recommendations from Attorney Norris had to do not just with policy, but stuff that I believe would wind up in the handbook. And so what will be the opportunity to put that kind of thing in place?
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
I will be speaking to that during my update relative to a meeting that the policy committee had with Anne Marie. So I'll be able to address it then. Okay, Mike?
Steve, I just want to go back to Leah's point. Has there been any thought given to the possibility of giving kids the option of whether to accept a numerical grade for their third quarter or a pass-fail grade for those kids that actually do kind of experience that upward climb in the second half of the year?
We actually looked at that as well. I meet with the Midland Wachusett League principals, and for the most part, we're all doing this the same way. I know there's some outliers out there that aren't. I don't believe it would work in the transcript to have some kids pass fail and some kids with a grade. The math wouldn't work with it.
Other questions? Leah? Unmute. Yeah.
So when we look back at Q4s, or however many assignments were kind of engagement assignments, what is the tipping point for the pass and the fail? Did the kid have to engage 70% of the time? Did they have to engage 60% of the time to get a pass? If I'm a parent and I'm looking at that attendance sheet, like the spreadsheet online, and I see a lot of A's, and when do I know, or how will I know how close my kid is to getting a fail?
I'm not seeing a whole lot of kids failing at this point because we're looking at some students have different things going on. We've got families that are people that are sick. We've got some families with some economic issues going on. The kids are working. We're looking at trying to get some students possibly getting some work study credit for that kind of thing. We're going to be very, very liberal in how we work through all that stuff. And we want the kids to be engaged. We don't want them not to do this stuff. but we're also going to look at things on an individual basis. And we have been throughout. I mean, that's pretty much what the A and the T is for, so that we can find out who isn't, so we can find out what's going on with them. And our guidance department and social workers have done a great job. Special ed has done a great job checking in on these guys and finding out what's going on and seeing if we can get them back on track or try to do something different with them, make some different plans.
Any other questions for Steve? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Steve. And I will call ask for a motion to accept about the 2021 handbook. Steve?
Move to approve the 2021 NRHS Handbook as presented.
Second?
Second.
Brett?
Yes.
Kathy, yes. Leah?
Yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Steve, thank you so much.
you.
Appreciate all the work that you and your staff are doing. It's certainly a challenging time, and
Yeah.
can't wait to hear more details about the graduation parade.
Yeah, teachers are doing a great job. I can't be more proud of what everybody's doing. It's really pretty impressive to switch
No
over this
doubt.
fast. It's really
No
something. So
doubt.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a series of updates. We'll start with Rob Frieswick. Where are you at?
Right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you've done that before. Now you're there. Okay. Oh, because Steve left. Okay. Hi,
Yeah.
Rob.
Good to see everybody. Hope everybody's
Nice to
doing
see
well.
you.
Can I tee it up, please, Kathy?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Rob's going to kind of go down a couple of different roads tonight, and I would want everyone to know that he and Lesa and I have all been working together as we take a look at some of the potential for soft openings, particularly for the custodians. So he's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about a couple of different things, and if you've got questions at the end, I'm sure Lesa or I can help support whatever his answers are, or whatever the answers are that you're looking for. So, Rob, do you want to get started?
Sure. Just a quick update, on the buildings and custodians. Right now, the custodians are on a rotation doing building checks 7 days a week. They've been doing some small tasks while they've been in there, filter changes, dealing with any light fixtures with burnt out light bulbs, cleaning and organizing the custodial closets in some of the storage areas. So that way, when we get back in there, we're off and running. So we can get both feet on the ground. As the department has started their seasonal tasks, mowing and cleaning up any winter damage that's been out there. Things are going to really be ramping up on that end as soon as the weather warms up. Returning to work, we've been Lesa and I and Brooke and the principals. We've been working to try to figure out what the best situation would be for that. I'm going to be meeting with all the custodians on a school-by-school basis to talk about personal protective equipment. How to properly put on gloves and remove them, proper wearing of face coverings, safe behavioral practices for frequent hand washing, always wearing your face coverings and avoiding touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, and stressing the social distancing aspect of it. When we get back to work, my mindset is, no more than 2 people working in the same area. Obviously practicing the social distancing at 6 feet, if not more, if we can. Getting into the schedule for returning for work. The week of 5/11, we're going to do split shifts Monday through Friday, where half the staff will be in the, any given building at any point. And then when the staffs, when they switch over, there'll be an hour in between. So that way there's no, time for everybody to kind of congregate in a common area, or just try to take that aspect out of it. And we're working on a plan. Like I said, we're working on a plan with the principals right now to have their staff in the buildings to start gathering all the belongings, so that way we can put the rooms to bed for the so-called summertime cleaning. It's going to be, some logistics to work through. Depending on the grade level. Obviously the elementary school side is going to take a little bit more time, just with the amount of stuff that's in those rooms. And then the high school, poses its challenges as well, just because of, the amount of stuff that those kids have in various parts of the buildings, whether it be athletics or, just the regular academic side of things. The week of the 18th, we're looking to get back to a 40-hour work week for the custodians. They're going to continue to, work in some of those larger common areas for cleaning, also helping out the teachers and the admin, pulling together for how we're going to distribute all the students' belongings back to them at some point the week of Memorial Day, basically starting on the 26th.
So Rob, I'll just pick up on that too. So so thanks very much to you, and thanks very much to the principals as we try to work out the details of getting those buildings emptied. It's a mammoth undertaking right now for orchestrating and organizing down to the smallest of details, and even of how we get the cars in and out of the parking lots. Or it's been a lot of work, but I feel really good about the plan. I think we're really ready for it, and I feel very comfortable that we can start on May 26th. That's our goal right now, anyways, to start May 26th. The commissioner was really adamant, and I'd mentioned this to our staff earlier this week, that the governor said May 18th, nothing before May 18th. And so, as I said, we're all rule followers. We got to follow that rule. So that's why the 18th, he's talking right now about bringing the custodians into the soft start on the May 18th. So I think we've got a good plan. I think that we'll probably send from central office a general overarching plan of times available for parent pickup in terms of students things. The high school brings about a lot of challenges because, of course, the freshman class share lockers. So it's not like you can even go into locker 200 and take everything out and know that it belongs to Sam Smith. It just doesn't work like that. So there are a lot of challenges for us as we talk through the high school. But I think we've got a good grasp on it, a good handle on all of it. So Rob, special thanks to you for all the work that you've done right through this whole thing, because you've continued to stay there. You've continued to monitor the buildings. We also got some extra cameras up that we planned as a project at some point in time this year, and this was a perfect time to do it. And same with the carpeting in the office. I'm really excited to see what that looks like. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous, I'm sure. So we want to thank the folks in the town of Bolton for approving that carpet at the last town meeting. So I think it's done, is it not, Rob?
It's done. Yeah, it's done.
Yeah. So very exciting. So thanks very much for that. The principals will send out notification, by the way, to the parents so that they know what to expect on the week of the May 26th. So that the specificity will come from the principals. Okay. Any questions for Rob?
Rob, this is a question that I was going to hold off till a little bit later in the meeting, but it does pertain to you and your staff, and then it's also directed towards the superintendent. And this question kind of goes back to the very first days of the decisions that the district had to make. So this is a very broad question, but I'm wondering, under what circumstances are we mandated to follow the guidance from the state, and at what under what conditions or at what point are we free to make localized decisions that are best for our own district? And some of those decisions the Commonwealth of Massachusetts can't realistically anticipate. So where is that line? And when can we say we're going to do this for Neshoba Regional, and that may or may not be in line with state guidelines or even suggestions?
That's a Brooke question. Brooke,
yeah, I'll take that. But you know what? It's such a good question, Mike, because Rob and I actually had this same conversation, did we not, about a week ago? Because what we're one of the challenges that we're finding, and this is going to be kind of a winding way to get to your answer, but what we're finding is different departments have different thinking, and so we kind of get mixed messages from those. And sometimes even our own Department of Elementary and Secondary Education sometimes sends messages. And I think I shared that with you today when I talked about graduation. I mean, now we've heard you'll get guidance on graduation, and then all of a sudden it's like this week on Monday or Tuesday it was, well, it's a local decision. we could have done that weeks ago if we'd known it was going to be a local decision. And so we find that really frustrating. And the bus contract is another one of those things where, you know, the DESE is kind of saying one thing, but then you've got the Department of Labor and the Department of Revenue that are also weighing in. And so it's really hard having all these things together. So it's kind of like, who's your boss, right? Like, who do you listen to? And Rob was in the exact same position earlier, because it was, what group was it, Rob? That was it your department, or was it
The Department of Labor Standards.
Right. Thank you. And so the Department of Labor Standards sent something out, except that was kind of, which is fine, except it kind of flew in the face of what the governor had said. And so I said to Rob, you know, we can do a soft start, but the governor clearly said May 18th, and we're not going to push that line. So, you know, even the commissioner, for example, we're saying May 18th, but the truth is, if the governor comes along and decides that it's not going to be May 18th, say, for example, it's, I don't know, pick a date, June 12th or whatever, then we will have to abide by the governor. So you know, that's really at the bottom line. That's where it is. The difference, and Mike, it was so astute of you to pick this up. The difference before is that the governor hadn't taken control of, I don't want to say the situation, because that's where that comes across wrong, and that's not all how I intended to be. But there was kind of nobody else making the decision early on in this, which is why you saw the superintendent say, "Wait, you know, we've got to, you know," and you know what I had done leading up to those the days before we decided to quit or to close the schools. So if the governor had come in earlier, we would have all shut down. So bottom line is, we really have to listen to him. And if he says, you know, you have to open in September, then we'll have to open in September. And I will tell you right now, in all honesty, that's a challenge for some parents right now, who are letting me know that they're struggling with this. So I absolutely understand it. And, you know, I exactly as Steve had said earlier, you know, I received an email from a parent last night, and they've lost a relative, a very close relative, and a very close friend in the last couple of weeks to the coronavirus. And it's a real struggle for them as they look ahead and say, you know, what does school opening even look like? And there's just all this fear. So that's kind of a long answer. Bottom line is, we have to abide by the governor first and foremost, and the commissioner of education. And because they all work together, and the secretary of education, they're all going to be on the same page. So right now, we would not be in a position to say, we hear you, but we're going to do something different. That wouldn't be in our best interest right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Rob? Mike? You have to unmute.
Rob, I know that you and I connected offline very early on with questions about how our communities could support you and your team. And as we're sort of transitioning back into this soft opening, are there other ways where communities can help your crew make their jobs a little bit more manageable? Areas where people could donate or offer anything that they're able to?
I just want to start by, thanking, the community at large for the outpouring of support that, they showed to the facilities department, giving donations to the guys, gift cards and things like that. It was, the guys were really appreciative of that. That's something, they hadn't seen in the past. So, they were really, really happy to see that. I thank the community, and those guys, thank the community as well. I think at this point, just being patient, through the process of trying to return, the students' belongings back to them. It's not going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, just because of the way some of these lockers are set up. Kids, like Joel Bates said, you have a two-tiered locker where if there was nobody down below, the student on top took over the bottom locker by eminent domain. So, the stuff in the bottom locker might not get returned to who it actually belongs to. So, there's going to be some challenges there, but I think just being patient, it might take some time, but everybody will get their stuff back. So just being patient, and being understanding as we try to work through this process, would be huge.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for Rob? Joseph?
Yeah, I just want to tell Rob, that wouldn't be eminent domain. That would be what we call adverse possession. But I get what you're saying.
Thanks, Joe.
Just adding a little jocularity.
Okay, I hope you made a note of that, Rob. We don't want
I
any
did, yes, yep.
misunderstandings. Thank you, and thank you, Counselor, for the free legal advice. Always appreciated. Okay, are we all set with Rob?
Yeah, we are. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Lesa will give us the update.
Hi, well, thank you for having me. Hi. So I'm just going to give you a quick update on what health services are doing, and then maybe just a little bit of how we've impacted and assisted with Neshoba Regional School District as well. And Rob and I have been connected, as Superintendent Crutchy had mentioned, quite a bit over the past few weeks to make sure that we're getting things ready for students to pick up their things, as well as graduations. I will say that Neshoba Regional School District has been able to give donations to local first responders. And what that looked like is we had leftover goggles and also some gloves that we were able, did not take away from our own personal protective equipment to service our own employees, but we had extra that was able to dispense of that. So they were very thankful of that within the community. So it was nice to see that. I do update on a daily basis with nurses and principals on command center. And what that looks like is the governor's message from the day before, and also what the numbers are within our own school districts, as well as Massachusetts, and what COVID looks like in our communities. And as of, that's updated on a weekly basis. Currently right now, Bolton has 9 positive COVID cases. Lancaster has 54 and Stowe has 16. I will say to you though, those numbers are probably lower than what they actually are. It's just based on testing. And early on in the testing process, they were not testing household members that contracted the same symptoms. So those numbers weren't a part of that. So those numbers are going to be a little bit higher, but they are testing now. As I mentioned, I met with Rob on several occasions to discuss the rollout of the buildings, provided guidance to principals as well as Rob with student pickup of their belongings in their lockers. I have also reached out to Dr. Coleman, who is our physician consult, to make sure that those processes were adequate, and he's signed off on all those so far. We also provided for central office. We still have essential personnel that need to come in on occasions to get payroll done and other processes of our jobs. And we provided PPE on their way in with mask and gloves with guidance on how to use those. So with May 6th change in Governor Baker's guidelines of everybody in Massachusetts wearing one coming into a public building, we felt that that was necessary to do that. And thank you, Rob, for making sure that we had hand sanitizer up there as well and getting that up and going. I've met with the committee this morning at the high school to discuss, and I unfortunately had to only spend a half an hour with them. So I didn't realize when Steve said that they came up with somewhat of that second plan. I gave them all the guidelines, again, from Governor Baker, DPH from the last guidelines that I just sat in on yesterday, and gave them just guidance of what they wanted. Originally, they wanted a gathering of cars at a fairground, and as of right now, that is not under the governor's guidelines to do, because it would be more than 10 people. So I'm glad to hear that I wasn't in on that. They made some changes to the graduation, so that was great. I want to point out, for those that have not heard about it yet, if you have not, there is scams already. So the community tracing collaboration, which is the CTC, that is, there's 1,900 volunteers that are doing that across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts right now. So they're helping local boards of health trace people that are COVID-19 positive and ones that were in direct contact. So if you can imagine that if one person tested positive, for example, myself tested positive, if I was in contact with my 3 family members and a few other people that I had 6 feet, 15 minutes or less, the local boards of health have to track all of those people. So one person, the average is 10 that they have to trace. So the state came up with the CTC. People are now calling people saying, you've been identified and I'm one of the CTC trackers and I need your social security number. So the scams are already out there. So just want you to be aware of that. The state would never, or the trackings would ever ask for personal identification numbers like that. So that's important to understand that. As far as nursing services, just to give you an update, the health services, they have office hours at least twice a week for an hour and a half. They are also involved in advisory groups with their meetings with students. And they've been doing a lot of protocol updates. They are completely busy with the anxiety and stress that's happening with our students. They are reaching out daily and sometimes all day long with emails with people that are just struggling with students and parents as well. So they've been very busy on that aspect. And we do meet once a week to make sure that they're supported as well and they don't need anything else from me. We also are meeting next week to look what's it going to look like when we return. The guidelines keep changing. EPH keeps changing. As Brooke had mentioned, DESE, it's just evolving on a day-to-day basis, and we're just trying to keep ahead of it. Try not to do so much planning because it just keeps changing, right? So we thoughtful process of it, of what it looks like, and I think the focus right now with Rob is to get students to get their belongings, get teachers back in there so we can retrieve that as long as we follow those guidelines, and the seniors with graduation. Looking at Massachusetts still, we'll look at COVID-19, just as a quick update, Massachusetts is still in the red. There's 3 different zones. We have a green zone when you're clear. We have an orange zone, we're almost there, and red, you're still way, we're in the hot zone. So when you look at how New Hampshire has lifted a little bit a week before us, they're in the orange zone, which is why they're starting to phase out phase 1 of letting non-essential businesses open up. Massachusetts still remains in the red. We're still only at essential services, but the governor, with hopefulness of the data that keeps tracking, that will be out on May 18th, go to phase 1. Phase 1 could last a long time. This is not, it's a 2-week. It's all based on the data. If the data stays where it needs to go down, phase 2 then can open up after 14 days. If it stays flat, I would imagine that phase 1 is going to stay. That's the reason why they put the mask on everybody as May 6th. We want to make sure that that stays flattened. We want to make sure that we're protecting those to not get it from us. So make sure that everybody understands that the mask does protect us a little bit. It's mostly to protect others from you when you have the mask on. So if you're an asymptomatic, meaning you have no symptoms, which we know there's a high percentage of those people out there, if we're wearing the mask, we have it and don't know it because we have no symptoms, we're not going to transport it to somebody else or cross-contaminate. So that's where, and there's 3 criteria. I'm not going to get into all the details of that, but that's what's going to happen with the rollout of the phases. Any questions? And Brooke, did I hit everything that you wanted me to hit, or do you want me to go further? Like, I could talk all day.
I know.
No, please.
I think just so you know, Lisa, I have on occasion forwarded the on-command notes, sent notes off to the school committee. I don't do it regularly. I just do it every now and again, just so that they can see. But yes, you're so diligent about making sure that we have those notes every single morning. As soon as I wake up, it's the first thing I take a look at, and I'm really appreciative of it. And I'm appreciative, Lisa. So I know I've said this to you so many times of your efforts with this, and even just keeping our our nursing staff buoyant through this, because I know what a challenge it is. And to your point, we are now seeing, and it kind of, as I was alluding earlier, to parents that are really struggling right now. And we have a number of health workers across the school district as well, who are parents who are health workers. They're struggling right now, and we're seeing all of that kind of coming through, and we want to take care of them. And I think, I thought Steve did a really good job tonight too of articulating, we're looking out for those kids, especially those kids that we see are struggling right now, not engaging and whatnot. So, but your nurses, I know, have been calling. They've been connecting with kids like right from like day one when this first started. So hats off to your team, and happy Nurses Appreciation Week.
Thank you.
We thank you so much. So I think you hit on everything I was looking for. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I don't know if anybody has questions.
For Lisa.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Other questions?
Oh, sorry.
Joseph, unmute. Thanks. Oh,
Nope,
you're muted again.
Still muted.
There you go.
I apologize. It's not a question, it's more of a comment, and it was based on the figures that Lisa provided. And I will just throw this out to my fellow Lancaster reps if I'm mistaken in this regard, but I think our numbers are skewing a little bit higher in Lancaster by virtue of the fact that there's a care facility that had an outbreak. So that was, I just wanted to just point that out for informational purposes. So.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Other questions for Lisa? Lisa, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, and this information is, and I know that how diligent the nurses have been and the other health workers in the district reaching out to families, and members of the committee have expressed concern about people that are struggling, people who are juggling with teaching and working and then taking care of their own families. And that update, the command center update, I think is incredible. I read it when we get it, and it's just so much information, good information. And but thank you for your leadership and for all the work you've been doing during this time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, Lisa, thank you. All right, Tom.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me tonight. This is one of my favorite topic to talk about, so I'll try to keep it brief. First, I'd just like to thank Brooke, Todd, Pat, and all of you for your support during this time. It's been a little crazy, but you know what? We're doing great things in the school nutrition department, and we're pretty proud of what we're doing. So, but we couldn't do any of it without your support. With that being said, last Friday, the governor proclaimed May 1st as Super School Lunch Hero Day in the state of Massachusetts. For all those school lunch heroes who are on the front lines feeding our kids. And I think the students of our districts are our most precious commodity. So I think that was very well done by him. And we were very excited to participate in the state's programming on Friday, May 1st. We currently, one of my dogs just picked up a chew toy, of course, and is squeaking it. I think my wife's taking care of that now. So we have 17 of our 21 members of our school nutrition team actually coming in to feed our students on a regular basis. So we're pretty lucky that only 4 of our employees aren't able to come in on a regular basis. But they're keeping up very well with online trainings, and they report to me as soon as they're done, and we're able to download their PDPs and things like that. So that's going very well. Also, I just kind of want to talk about serving the meals in general. We're able to do this because the USDA has granted the state of Massachusetts a waiver in which all districts can either operate under the summer school meal program or seamless summer operation. And we in Neshoba are operating under the seamless summer operation because of the way we fit in the free and reduced percentile and everything like that. So, pardon me, what that means is we're able to serve everyone in our towns from the age of 0 to 21, a breakfast and a lunch on a daily basis. So whether, you know, the two words keep coming up, in need, and we're not here to judge who's in need or who's not in need. We're here to provide food for those who would like to have it, whether it's because mom and dad are working and grandma's taking care of them, or mom and dad are working at separate times and mom needs to have a break and maybe go pick up school lunch with her kids, or they need that break from learning online, and mom or dad or guardian, whomever, can go with them to pick up their breakfast and lunch for the next 2 days. So that's what we're here to do. We are receiving reimbursements in the rate of $2 per breakfast, a little over $2, a little over $3 per lunch, under this USDA waiver and under the seamless summer operation. And so that's what we're doing. We're serving about between 150 to we haven't hit 200 a day yet, students, but we're over 150, which is exciting considering we started at less than 30 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're serving Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where students or families are able to pick up 2 breakfasts on Monday, 2 lunches on Monday, 2 lunches and breakfasts on Wednesday, and then 3 on Friday to get through the weekend. And again, that's available to anyone from the ages of 0 to 21 years of age. I got to look at my notes here. I just want to make sure.
Can you speak to the commodities for a minute too, please?
Everything. Yep, certainly. So we did receive some USDA foods in an effort to help our costs in feeding our students, which was great. And we were also able to donate a little bit of produce because we had some that we weren't going to use in time and we didn't really want it to spoil. So we were able to share that with the wheat program in Clinton, who also services our local area. To date, we received, and this is news to everybody, we knew that we received 1 grant for $10,000, but I just received an email this evening that we've also received another grant through the Gen Youth Foundation and COVID-19 that was spearheaded through the New England Dairy Council for $1,100.
Wow.
So that's a new grant that we just were informed that we received. So between the two, we've received $100 in grant funding to supply us with equipment to for things like we just ordered some new signs today to go out in the community to further get the word out about what we're able to do for our youth of the communities. We ordered a sealing machine to package the foods in a better way so nothing will leak. We've ordered some coolers and ice packs to be able to keep hot food hot and cold food cold. And we've also been in contact with all of the local daycare providers in the area who have shared all of our pamphlet information. And we're also working with, we're beginning to work with our housing facilities to, again, spread the word and hopefully increase our numbers even more. So we keep our feet on the ground. We continue to feed our students 5 times greater number than when we started. And I'm just so proud of the team we have in our nutrition department to be able to do this under these crazy times, which may be our new normal time. And that's something we're going to have to think of as a district as we get closer to the beginning of the next school year. How are we going to feed our children? So thank you all.
Questions for Tom?
I think I did that without taking a breath.
Hi, Tom. Thanks so much. I think that there was just one thing that I wanted to clarify. There was some understanding in my community that we would actually be doing the food service program a favor by going and taking advantage of this really amazing service. Is that necessarily true? Do you actually need people to turn out to have the program be successful, or should this really be for people who just need a little bit of a helping hand in some way, shape, or form?
So there again, there's that word need, and I'm not sure. We're not here to decide what need is. Someone's need, maybe somebody else is glad to have. Who knows? But with that said, obviously, if we're putting out 150 or 250 meals a day and receiving $5 a day in reimbursement for the combined breakfast and lunch, if we serve another 100 meals that day, that's another $500 we receive in reimbursement. So we have the staff there. All of our staff, as I said, 17 of the 21 of our food and nutrition team. That doesn't include Leah or myself. And a shout out to Leah again for helping on both of those grants. She's a tremendous asset. So if the staff's there to provide the meals and we're serving, say, 100 to keep numbers small or mathematically doable, 100, but we get 500 for that. And if we do 200, we get 1,000 in reimbursement. I mean, numbers tend to lead one to believe that the more we serve, the more money we get back. Our staff is being paid their salaries anyway. So why not make hay while the sun shines?
Okay. Other questions for Tom? Elaine.
Hi, Tom. First, thank you so much. I know that getting our kids fed was like the first priority after our school closed. So thank you for doing that so successfully. I'm wondering if you felt any effects from supply chain disruptions. Are you having any shortages of certain types of food? Have you felt that, and do you expect to feel it in the future?
We certainly expect to feel it in the future. Right now, we've had a little trouble with shelf-stable milk. We prefer the shelf-stable milk because it's shelf-stable and doesn't require any refrigeration. But we were able to augment our supply with fresh milk. And there's actually some new word on the street, for lack of better terminology, that we may be able to receive some bonus fresh milk because there is so much milk in the pipeline right now that farmers are actually destroying it on premises rather than bringing it to places to have it made drinkable. So now I'm working with New England Dairy on that as well, and hopefully we'll be able to bring more fresh milk into our program and maybe even help other programs, again, like whether it's the Stowe Food Pantry or Wheat or any local organization. We'll be happy to store some of that in our refrigerators to help them as well. But as we know, meat plants are closing.
Yeah.
If you walk into the market in the Berlin-Hudson line there, to remain nameless, their meat shelves were empty yesterday. They were waiting for truckloads. We're going to see that as well. It's only a matter of time. I'm sure big cities like Boston and Worcester are finding it to be part of their daily routine now. We're just a little bit behind them because we're not serving as many students.
Okay.
Thank you,
And
Brooke.
it's definitely going to affect our next year as well.
Thank you, Tom. Brooke?
Tom, I just want to put out there again, and this is just, I know that we know this, but just for the sake of the public, we want to just mention that you get money based on the number of meals served. And so you serve the meals and then the reimbursement comes back.
That's correct.
So I want to put that out there. And the other thing is your line, the food services line, it really falls very separately from the regular budget appropriation. So,
Yes.
you know, there was some rumors or whatnot out there that people had to come and get these meals in order to keep this program going or whatever. And that's simply not true. Like that's not at all true. And so, and the other side of it is, you know, not only, and I just want to repeat this, he mentioned that we're receiving special reimbursement right now for these meals, and we've received special commodity shipments to help. So I think the food services is in a really great place right now. And I wanted to say, Tom, too, thank you so much. I mean, you guys just do an amazing job. I also want to mention too, and you mentioned Leah and helping support the grants and whatnot. That's exciting. I also think your website has really got a lot of really strong information on it, and I encourage people to go on to the tab there. And you are on Twitter now, and you tweet out pretty regularly. So if you can follow them on the nutrition regional services, is it the nutrition services? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yes.
I when you just follow, you click it once and you don't think again, right?
I know, that's I did the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah. Anyway, do follow them if you can, because there's always a lot of really good information that he puts out on Twitter too. So Tom, thank you so much, and thank you to your staff. Just so respect and appreciate everything you bring to the table right now. Thank you.
Okay, I think Leah has a question.
Just really quick, Tom, should people pre-order? Is that useful for you guys?
we don't have that set up right now, and we really haven't had the need. So no, we're producing enough food and have enough food on hand that should there be a new family, or should there be 10 new families, we're still able to make those accommodations for them on a daily basis. But we're always happy to hear from families, both pros and cons. We'd love to hear any communication from parents who have any questions. They can email me at Houle, that's THOULE @nrsd.net, and I'll be happy to answer any questions they have.
Thank you. Any other questions for Tom? Okay, Tom, thank you so much, and keep up the good work. And just the takeaway to sum up, anyone who is interested in getting the meals should just contact you, and we are reimbursed for every meal that is served. And we have about $11,000 in grant money that you were able to secure for us. So thank you very much, Tom. And thanks to your team as well.
Thank you. And no need, if they can't reach me by email, there's really no need. They can just go to one of the sites and there'll be food there for them.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Joan, we're going to get an update on special education. First of all, thank you so much for the information that you sent. It's part of the meeting materials. And so if you could give us an overview of what's been going on for our special education students.
Sure. I really want to thank you for providing me with the opportunity to share the remote work that we've been doing by the special ed team tonight. This team really continues to energize me. There's a lot of support in this department. I never realized how big this department was until I started setting up Zoom meetings with them. But they are certainly up for the challenge, and not only supportive of each other, but really feel the support of this team. Anne Marie, Brooke, Todd, Pat, I mean, they always feel like there's people to turn to. So I can't thank you enough. And, I personally connect with a lot of things that are going on. I live with an essential worker in my house who leaves the house 12 to 14 hours a day. I have a teacher daughter who is teaching remotely in her second year. So you can imagine the calls I get at night because she's just learning how to do this. And my youngest is part of the class of 2020. So there are some real challenges on the home front here. So I feel like I can really relate to the families that are out there, but I have so many blessings personally, and I think that this work in this way has really helped me to expend my focus on what can I do to help and how can I be there to listen. So in the addition to what my team has done, I have reached out to many of my families just to lend an ear. I can't express in words the energy, support, and dedication of the team I work with. First and foremost, the creativity of our teachers to engage students in a variety of modalities is tremendous. we recognize as the department that remote learning is not our preferred method to work with our students. However, we've learned so much about how to do this work thoughtfully in a very short time frame. My department has been incredibly busy. We get directors from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed almost weekly. So that has led to the development of 12 program remote plans. In addition, we did remote learning plans for our elementary and middle and high school inclusion students. We have students that are out of district, so we spent a lot of time with those schools making sure there are remote learning plans for our students that are out of district. For those that are closed, there are some that are open. This past month, we sent out 600 letters to describe our remote learning plans to our families. We've instituted weekly consults by grade level. We have weekly consults by program level. And we have done parent consults as prescribed in students' IEPs. We've completed progress reports in addition for the trimester. In preparation for a longer school closure, we also developed a protocol for virtual team meetings. So we did mock team meetings last week to make sure we had all of the pieces that we needed to, including electronic signatures. I put all the team chairs through a training to get all the electronic signatures done and allow our families to understand how to sign in and how to electronically sign. And so now we have set up over 100 virtual meetings district-wide. We probably have 100 more to go, but in 10 days' time to have 100 meetings scheduled can tell you about the dedication of the team chairs in this district. So tonight, I really want to highlight some of the work our educators have done, because I think a video or a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I sent you some samples earlier. I hope you'll look at them with IEP goals, with examples of the types of things our service providers are providing, with visuals. But tonight, Dr. Maguire, are you ready? He's going to help me show you some of the work that's happening. So individually with students, with groups of students, and how our related service providers are providing services to our students. So I think the first video that we have is Valerie Bayranovan. She is a speech and language pathologist, and you're going to see a videotape of an individual lesson that she's providing for a student in one of our programs. So I'm going to let Todd share his screen.
Can everyone see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, Todd, do you have sound?
Do you not have sound?
No
No.
sound.
No sound.
She's very smiley.
Let's try this again.
Thanks, Todd.
I'm outside today at my house.
Sorry.
I know one of the things that you like to do is take a walk. And I know that that's a word that you say very clearly. Let's practice it now. Walk. Good. And I know when you say it, you sometimes do the sign also. Walk. So I'm going to take a little walk and I'm going to come right back. I'm going to go for a walk. And I came back. I just took a little walk and it made me happy. I like being outside, and today is sunny. If it's a rainy day, then we can't go outside because we would get all wet. But today is sunny, so I can take a walk.
Maybe you can pause.
Go again. So you.
Yep.
So as you can see, Val is using some keywords that the student already knows, and she's also doing sign language to communicate with the student through her individual IEP goals. So I just wanted you to see a snapshot of that. The second video, I'm going to let Todd, and I'll cue it up, is a group lesson by Caitlin Paulin. It's also a speech and language lesson that she is going to talk about the dots. And you'll be able to watch all the video if you'd like to go back and watch it. I just know I'm on like a timestamp tonight, so.
I'm more stressed out about these clips for you than I am about anything else.
I'm sorry. You
It's
volunteered.
okay. No, I just
thought
want
you volunteered to help me.
I did. I just want to make sure they're all working. So I think we're
Okay.
good with I think we're describing dots, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. It's Miss Paulin. I miss seeing you. How are you doing? Hopefully you are doing well. I know that this has been a big change. And I just wanted to send a little video along with an activity that I'm going to ask you to do. For some of you, you may have started trying using these. For others, this may be brand new. So we're going to start small. So we are going to learn about using describing dots. Some of you may remember that in my office, I have dots on my wall, and we're going to start using them today. So what are these dots used for? Why are they in my room? So they can be used to tell information about an object or an idea. They can expand the information or give more information that you're telling someone. And then once you've gotten really good with using these dots, you can use them to summarize what you read or summarize a topic. So the first dot is green. So this green dot is a way to organize and tell about the group. So green, group. So this means it's the category, what something belongs to. So the examples I put are apple, banana, and a pineapple. They're all fruits. Fruits is the group that they belong to. An airplane, a boat, and a car are all transportation. Things that bring you places. That's the group that they belong to. The next one is blue. Blue, do. What you need to ask yourself is, what can you do with it, or what does it do? So the examples I have is an apple, you eat it, and an airplane brings you places. I think that this one, blue do, can sometimes give you more than one answer. But right now, I want you to just stick with one. The next one is an eyeball, and it stands for, what does it look like? So this can be the size, the shape, or the color. So for example, a tree can be brown and green, and a cake is a circle. So that's a shape rather than a color. So now let's put these three parts together to describe some pictures or objects that I have. So the example I have are grapes. So the group that it belongs to is fruit, right? It's not transportation, it's not clothing, it is fruit. What do we do with it? We eat grapes. It's not something that we drive, it's not something you wear on your head, you eat them. And the last one is that eyeball. That stands for what does it look like? So the picture I have here, it's kind of a purpley red. So I put both colors. It's purple and red. The next one for my example is a sneaker. So the group that it's a part of is clothing. It's something you wear. Ooh, I gave the next one away. So blue, do, you wear it. And finally, what does it look like? So this particular sneaker is black and white, but I also did the size. It's small, right? I think of big as your house.
Thank you. So as you can see, it's a group lesson to categorize. It's a well thought out lesson that multiple students can observe, and then they can do it when they have the opportunity to be on the computer during the day. And believe it or not, I was kicked off to Zoom earlier, so now I'm on my iPad. So that happens sometimes too.
I'm on optimum.
Oh my goodness, this is not working either. Come on. Sorry, I keep getting booted off for some reason. I apologize. So the third is a short movie review from one of our school adjustment counselors. She came up with a way to demonstrate feelings by doing a movie review. So maybe Todd, you could play a little bit of that.
Hey everybody, welcome to movie review number 2 with Mrs. Quinn. I've kind of jazzed it up a little bit, trying to do some with it, so we're going to see how this goes. So let's get right down to it, to the 2 movies that I looked at this week. All right, let me move myself over a little bit so you can see. We have Abominable and Rise of Skywalker. 2 really good movies. So we're going to jump right into the first one, which is Abominable, as I move myself up here. All right. And so Abominable is really a nice movie. Beautiful graphics, really nicely done. What it's all about is it's after discovering a Yeti on the roof of her apartment building. Teenage Yi and her 2 friends embark on an epic quest to reunite the magical creature with his family. But to do so, they must stay one step ahead of a wealthy financier and a determined zoologist who want to capture the beast for their collection. So they are basically up to no good. Okay, so life lessons. Friendship is a blessing. Even if you are lonely and hurting, let people in. So the friendship part, you see how the friendships develop throughout the movie, both with the Yeti, but also with the kids. And even if you're lonely and hurting, letting people in, you'll see that too. It's a really, really nice movie. So this one has all the feels. We have loneliness, we have guilt, we have fear, we have courage, happiness, and acceptance. And let's see what else we got. We got size of the problem. I saw 2. So we have big, which is the need to help the Yeti get back to his family. And then we had an instance of small. So one of Yi's friends stepped in some mud and got his new sneakers all muddy, and he definitely does not have a small reaction, more of a medium reaction. So would I recommend this movie? Absolutely. It's a great movie. Definitely worth seeing. All right, now the next one that we want, Star Wars Skywalker.
So those are some of the learning lessons that we're providing for students. And then I added some samples of occupational therapy, physical therapy, and some preschool lessons that we've provided in the documents that Alita uploaded. But I did want to show you one last clip because I don't know if you caught this on the news. It was quite moving. Mr. and Mrs. Beck, they are residents of the district. They have a student who's in a residential treatment facility, and he is still there. and they were interviewed by ABC6 about the pandemic. So I thought it would be really nice for kind of to share their lens as well of a parent who has a student out of district.
Massachusetts. In March, mental disabilities live in residential facilities and group homes in Massachusetts. In March, group homes stopped family visits to try to protect this especially vulnerable group from the coronavirus. Boston 25 news anchor Heather Hedges joins us now. And Heather, these families haven't seen their children in person going on 2 months now.
Really unbelievable, Sarah. Everybody here is making huge sacrifices in an effort to try to keep coronavirus out of these residential facilities. As you can imagine, it is a strain on the children, a strain on their parents, and a strain on the staff, many of whom at this Southborough facility you're about to see actually volunteered to go into these residential facilities in an effort to keep these essential services going for students who need them most.
When is the last time you got to see Owen face to face?
March 7th. It has been 55 days since Melissa and Chris Beck have touched, hugged, or kissed their son Owen. They aren't allowed to visit him at his residence run by the New England Center for Children, and he can't go home to his parents' home in Stowe. Their only way to see him is through Skype, and they miss him every day.
At first, it was torture, yes.
We've seen so many scary stories out there.
But seeing how well Owen is doing during this time, because of the continued structure, we feel so much calmer.
Owen has autism and is nonverbal. Like many of the other children he lives with, his frustration sometimes leads to him hurting himself or others. So he's safest in a residential placement. Plus, individuals with autism often have complex medical needs and compromised immune systems.
If the kids were going back and forth, we couldn't guarantee that this wouldn't spread everywhere in the residential program rapidly.
Founder and CEO Vincent Strelli says the decision to institute a lockdown when the pandemic hit was out of necessity. Still, 3 residents have been diagnosed with COVID-19, but they aren't going home. Instead, they're being isolated with staff turned first responders.
Not only did they volunteer to work in these situations, knowing the risk, but more than 100 of them now live in single rooms in extended stay hotels and have been self-isolating.
Parents have been told they won't be able to reunite with their children until at least the end of June. Next week is Owen's 16th birthday.
We don't even want to knock on the window and wave to him. That might confuse him. So they said, well, we'll Skype and you can watch us sing happy birthday to him.
As for those students at the New England Center for Children who tested positive for COVID-19, well, Strelli tells me, thanks to support from the state, they were able to test everybody in that group home who was in and out of that group home, and they actually traced it back to a staff member who was totally asymptomatic and had no idea he had COVID-19. So that's just another example of just how tricky this virus really can be. Reporting live this morning, I'm
So I want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Beck for sharing their experience, because I think that, they reached out to Ann Nealon, who's the Audit District Coordinator, and shared the news and said that how blessed and thankful they were that Owen is with people who care and love it. Their hearts really go out to those families who have children at home. And so they weren't able to express that or see that in the news clip, but they wanted me to express that tonight. So, our families are experiencing all different kinds of situations. And I think that we constantly have to be mindful of that. So I appreciate you allowing me or indulging me to share some of the clips that the work of our department. And I know tonight I really focused on our related service and our audit district placements, but I want to highlight our special ed teachers as well, because our high school learning center has 71 students signed up that are accessing information and support from special educators. Our special educators throughout the district are teaming with the regular educators to modify work, offer adjusted reading levels, modifying content. Middle and elementary teachers are consistently working to provide support around written output for students. They're available for consultation with parents and students through a variety of means. They're doing, small group or some supports with families about implementing content. And as a district, we're committed to providing enrichment activities for the maintenance of skills. So the department purchased Lexia Core 5 and Power Up, which are reading programs in the district. And it assists not only with growing reading skills, but assisting with the maintenance of skills. The feedback I got from the special ed team at elementary and middle today was tremendous. They really feel like this is a beneficial program, and we have that license until the end of the summer. We're considering pursuing it for the fall as well. And in terms of the math skills, our Envision Maths program has an online component that some students are using, but in addition, we've used iExcel and Edulastic to support math skills. So just a little snippet of what's going on in the PPS office, and I'm hoping you'll invite me back so I can share some more exciting lessons live.
Thank you, Joan. Questions for Joan? Leah. Leah.
I'm just trying to piggyback on what I heard during citizens' comments. Is it appropriate at this time to talk about the therapeutic aspects and how
I would rather have Joan come back. And so if you sent some questions, obviously this is it's a complex topic. We had sort of a taste of it tonight. So if you have questions about the therapeutic aspect of that, or any questions relative to that, send them to me and I'll send them to Brooke, and we can have Joan come back and address it at that time. Okay? Yes.
And then on a different note, are we able, I know it's really hard and probably most districts aren't, but are we keeping up with special education timetables and all of the deadlines that are required by law to do the initial and all the evaluation and stuff?
Joan?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So when the school was extended, everything was on hold until we extended the closure till the end of the year. And the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed then said to us, you know, it's really time to think about getting meetings virtually. So we are behind meetings, but our intent is to catch up all those March and April meetings that we have missed, and they're scheduled. And our goal is to have all those annual reviews done by the end of the year. In terms of initials and reevals, a lot of testing wasn't able to take place. So it's hard to keep up with a timeline when you can't do a face-to-face evaluation. And we can't test kids virtually. It just doesn't make sense. And there are a lot of distractions in home, and our staff don't have offices. So I can't even imagine if there'd be any level of accuracy coming out for an evaluation. So just so that you know, I've done kind of 3 plans. I had a testing by storm in May until we closed till the rest of the year. I have a secondary plan for kids that require testing. If we have a soft opening and we're allowed to be in a building, I plan to do some testing this summer. And if we cannot do that, then I have a plan for the fall. So I find myself often doing 3 levels of plans. Extended school year is the same. I have, plan A, what we usually do. Plan B, if there's a soft opening, can we spread kids out and use all the buildings in the district? And then plan C, if we have to go to remote, I have a plan for that as well. So I find that 3 plans is usually what I'm doing. And sometimes I'm redoing them based on the advice I'm getting from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed.
Thank you. Other questions? Brooke?
Just a quick comment here too. Joan, thank you so much, because of all of our areas, your area is probably the most complex and the most layered to try to get our heads wrapped around to try to provide appropriate services for everyone. One of the things I would say, Joan attends regular meetings. The state has been really good, I think, in terms of making sure that we're all brought together to try to support us as best as they can. And so the special education directors as well meet regularly, and so she's I would say probably at least once weekly.
It's almost every Friday, except the week that a lot of districts had April vacation. It's every Friday I have a meeting with the department.
So I would just want our school committee to know that. I mean, Pat attends regular meetings at least once a week, Pat, sometimes way more than once a week, depending on what we're dealing with. Certainly the commissioner holds regular meetings with us as well. So, and the superintendents are always I mean, people will say, well, do you know what this district is doing? And we say, well, actually, yes, we do, because we're all in touch with each other. You heard Steve talk about the mid-watch principals all getting together and talking about graduation as a collective. One of the things that I can honestly say through this entire thing is I don't think any of us have ever felt alone in terms of our jobs, because we are consistently surrounded by people that are helping to support us, and we're helping to support others. So I would just want you to know that she receives continual guidance and continual update weekly from the state, as we all do.
Thank you. Any other questions, Elaine?
So by definition, right now, all the students are isolated in their homes, but so much of the great progress that I know kids in special education make is through groups. And I mean, the whole concept of inclusion implies that you're together. So what can be done in sort of a group setting, if anything at all, to try to somehow replicate those environments?
So we've been doing that at the high school, because I think we were really equipped to do that. We had to teach our high school program students really how to participate in a virtual meeting. And so we have virtual meetings with our BCBAs, special ed teachers, speech and language pathologists, and we do very small groups of students, because sometimes the kids cannot handle too many people on. So I've been able to be in some of those I've done a ton of virtual classes. I'm on consults every week to see how kids are doing. I was on a transitions class last week where they did a destination trip. And so the kids picked where they wanted to go, and they had to calculate destination, mileage, how they were going to get there transportation wise. So there was really great dialogue between the students. And then now with K-8, being allowed to use more Google Meets now that we have the legal perimeters involved. You saw Allison Quinn today with her movie review, but the school adjustment counselors are going into those small groups and running social skills groups and including students with special needs. Our speech and language pathologists are co-teaching social skills instruction. So there's lots of those things that are happening. And I think we're getting better and better at it. It's certainly a learning curve.
Excuse me, Joan. Mike, did you have a question?
Yes. And my microphone is on, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Sorry, it's confusing to me. So Joan, as you were saying earlier, we have roughly 600 kids in the district on IEPs. Each of them have different accommodations and learning goals. And this remote learning interval in the school year amounts to about a third of the school year. So I'm wondering what mechanisms the district has in place in continuing to measure progress towards the goals of individual students on these IEPs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a great question, because obviously we'll be writing progress reports in June. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed kind of gave us some advice last week about collecting data and writing progress reports and asking parents to do that. And parents are stretched probably as far thin as they can be. So we came together as a district-wide group for a couple hours today and really talked about we have a lot of data points, believe it or not, already. So engagement at a tiered level. So participation, maybe in a Google Meet, completing, some of the schoolwork that's assigned, collaborative consultation with parents and students around questions that they might have. We get some natural data from Lexia and from Envisions and IXL around participation and accomplishing goals. Oh my God, there's a ton. They put together a 2-page list of data points that they have. Communication with the teacher of how they're doing. Communication with parents who have reached out, not only us reaching out to them, but who's reached back to us. and how we've supported them through some of the content. Some of our teachers are doing actually video demos because, you know, we don't teach math today the way we learned it, or at least the way I learned it. I'm kind of old. So, you know, really doing some demos about what those different math concepts look like, that meaning behind the numbers that I certainly did not learn math the way we teach it. So it's been a relearning for me. So there are a lot of data points we've been able to put together in order to reflect progress. So I will also say to you that families also have situations, right? We have some families that are essential workers. I have families that, you know, there are doctors, there are nurses, and parents are doing the best they can. So we're looking to support them around getting essential work and concepts done the best they can without feeling incredibly stressed. Because I think trying to balance a 12 to 14-hour day and then, you know, maybe have a break on the weekend, or maybe you don't, and then trying to teach your child during that or find childcare is incredibly challenging. The data we won't have for sure is things that we do directly, you know, the study skills and the organization and getting that binder together. We spent a lot of time talking about those kind of things that you have to sit with a child and go through their materials and organize. But our special educators have done a great job of looking at what the regular ed teachers put out and putting out their own sample schedule about what their expectations are and really modifying what's being rolled out so it's accomplishable and doable. I think.
Sorry, yeah. So just as a follow-up, you know, earlier Steve said that there would be a
Wait, excuse me, Mike. Excuse me. I'm looking at the time. We are we're going to have an executive session. What I would like to do without objection is, if there are more questions for Joan, if you could send them to me, and I'll send them to Brooke, who'll send them to Joan, and then we can have a follow-up at the next meeting. So is this something that needs to be answered tonight, Mike?
No, I'll follow up. Thank
you so much. And Joan, thank you. I can't even imagine the complexity of remote learning with the special education students. It is such a diverse group, and everybody is on an individual education plan, and to try to do that remotely presents its challenge. So kudos to you and your team and the teachers who are so dedicated to the students. We really appreciate it. And it would be great if you could come back on the 20th and with the follow-up and anything else you want to share with us.
Sure, I'll be happy to share those documents with you. And I would encourage you to look at some of the things I sent, because you will see students' goals and samples, and then how we're delivering service and suggestions in terms of rollout. So
very good. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you. Okay. So now we have Dr. Maguire with a remote learning update.
Yeah, and I'll be brief in my update. It's good when we have those coming from the front lines and in the trenches, like Joan and Steve and Lesa tonight to help out with all of that. So I just want to give kind of a quick update in terms of where we're at with remote learning. We did have to come out from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which then allowed us to do a deeper dive. So just in terms of updating, our social emotional resources continue to grow on the remote learning site. There's pages for activities, articles, resources, strategies, and applications located on there. We're doing our best to tie them to the district improvement plan. And as you know, one of the major goals there is social emotional learning, and also the related resources to Dr. Mark Brackett, who will be our keynote speaker for next March. So we're doing our best to tie that all in. Just as an update, we too have been having conversations with those professional development providers that we work with, who we've scheduled to come and do professional development in the fall. We've pushed any large group PD sessions right now to the spring. So we're doing a lot of meeting in the teaching and learning department around professional development and making sure that those kinds of things are pushed off, but also brainstorming on the kinds of remote and virtual professional development we can offer teachers coming back in the fall. There's been a lot of question. We've gotten a lot of feedback around two-way communication. The Department of Education was really specific in their new guidance on what two-way communication looks like. So we've pushed out these components and examples of two-way communication to teachers as well as families. Those examples consist of things that we're starting to see with live sessions of morning meetings and opening circle through synchronous live lessons, synchronous weekly advisory group meetings that are held virtually that are led by an advisory teacher or a student leader. You're beginning to see, and we're posting regular teacher availability and or office hours when students can drop in via computer or phone to get help with assignments or check in with their teacher. Individual calls or even including through their Google account to students from educators and staff to check on students' well-being or to review feedback that was given on student work. We continue to work within the Google Chat and in the Google Meet and the Google Classroom or Google Docs for individual check-ins. Recording responses or recording feedback and sending it out to students via Flipgrid or Screencastify, which are two digital tools that we use extensively across the district. We're working with educated or facilitated peer questions and responses via Google Classroom assignments, opt-in interest-based peer groups such as book clubs, drawing workshops, sing-along groups that are led by educators, paraprofessionals, or even students, opt-in topic-based peer groups such as tutorial sessions led by educators, paraprofessionals, or students. We're also advising on team educator check-ins with students as well. And we've also established norms and best practices for video conferencing that have been added to the remote learning site and pushed out and shared with district staff. So that was based on the guidance from the Department of Education on two-way communication and the recognition that, you know, it's really, really important for teachers and students to be connecting as well as students with larger groups. Moving on to online engagement, we can remain very consistent in online engagement as we can track it through the Google Classroom. It remains consistent. It was actually up just a little bit since my last report 2 weeks ago, so that continues to stay consistent and active, which we're happy about. Steve spoke about the grading piece at the high school. In terms of K through 8, the teaching and learning department has worked with building principals and assistant principals, and what we've done is, because K through 8 has been a credit, no credit designation, what we did was we created standards-based report cards that identify the specific essential standards that were put out by the commissioner. That will allow teachers to give feedback on each standard at each grade level and in each discipline that is in addition to the credit, no credit designation that they will get for remote learning. So we just created those and put those out to principals and continue to work on those. We're in talks to have complete online registration moving forward for next year. So we have a meeting with principals and district staff tomorrow to determine what that will look like and moving to an all online registration for the start of the new school year. And then finally, I know there's been some questions around surveys, and what we've done is met with all principals at all schools in terms of getting specific building level surveys out on remote learning. The plan was to stagger those surveys so as not to overwhelm families who have multiple students in multiple buildings. So we had 3 surveys go out thus far for 3 schools. The high school has sent surveys out in each department. Mary Rowlandson, Luther Burbank, and Hale have all sent out surveys and gotten feedback from communities and from families. The high school has sent out surveys department-wide, and then the remaining schools are sending those out in the coming weeks so that we don't overwhelm our families. The way that we were able to, Sean O'Shea, Principal O'Shea, was able to kind of divvy up and give us his survey data. What they did was he asked parents if their child's found something positive or benefited from during this remote learning time. He identified the top 4 responses were an increased independence, an increase in technology skills, video connection with teachers and peers, and then increased family time. He also asked them what those challenges were, the biggest challenges. The responses were competing demands amongst families, motivation and executive functioning skills, and then new uses of technology at those lower grade levels. They then asked teachers the biggest challenges that they are facing. First was balance with work and family. Second was personal connection with students. Third was, again, technology and the growing needs for technology. And then 4 were meeting the individual needs of students in a remote learning model. At Luther Burbank, 67% of families indicated their child was engaging in schoolwork for the half day, 3 hours a day. 81% of families indicated their child was able to access work fully independently or with minimal support from home. The open fields comments reflected a great amount of positive feedback for teachers on their hard work and efforts to transition to the remote learning model. Also included and reflected suggestions for specials, further support with the organization and posting of assignments, work completion within grade levels, and a consistent request for more face-to-face interactive sessions via Google Meet. Families indicated that these types of sessions have been hugely helpful moving forward for students to keep and stay connected with their teachers as well as their peers. And then finally at Houle, it reported out that 77% of families gave a 4 or a 5 on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best for the remote learning. The scale was a general question on how things were going at home in relation to remote learning. 70% of students are working, same thing, 60 minutes or more of schoolwork each day independently. And parents commented on the following: the types of assignments that they are issuing are hitting the mark. Teachers have been responsive to students' needs. Families are eager to use Google Meet and are looking forward to more FaceTime with staff. Students are struggling with social isolation. And parents are reporting that students are increasing independence, enjoying the work at your own pace world of remote learning. The time for leisure and family has been nice. So our goal for the rest of the year, as we continue to get survey data in, is to really be informed by those survey results with the new state guidance and the district expectations. And so those goals for the next 6 weeks will be to continue to make more personal two-way connections between teachers and students, as well as with students and other students, deepen the academic foundational skills now that we have the specific essential standards at each grade level, and to increase student engagement. And some of those strong examples of work thus far, we've seen talent shows at the high school. I shared the Chieftain Press, the virtual Chieftain Press with you folks today, which I thought was really impressive. Please give it a read. Principal Cullinane spoke about the virtual prom. Video morning announcements are always fun to watch, especially Principal Bates, because I think he's been dressed up like Luke Skywalker and Harry Potter a few times. And just the new outreach we've done with Seesaw, we opened that up and now have the premium version for all families, K through 2. So that the work that's going on within the Seesaw platform has been pretty impressive thus far. So that is my update.
Can I just mention something too?
Just a second. All right. Did any of the members have any questions for Todd at this point? Leah.
Todd, can you just quickly clarify, did you say that the high school did send out surveys, or that it was just to the teachers?
So the high school has been department-wide have been doing that. So I spoke to Steve earlier, and so he said that departments were sending out surveys. Specifically, he was going to get me more specifics on that. So the high school hasn't sent out a whole school survey, which is what we are looking for them to do and every school to do. So they're still in that category to get a full school survey out. But we will have data from the high school.
And just follow up, the department-wide surveys, were they sent to kids or parents?
I believe they were sent to teachers thus far.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Leah?
So I just had 2 more points, and I already emailed you guys about this, but just to get on the record here, one thing that I'm hearing a lot, and I would actually agree with this, is that at the middle and elementary school levels, the teacher Google Meet schedule has been ramping up, which can be kind of stressful, but at the same time, my kids really look forward to it, and it's been a really, really nice addition to actually see all of those beautiful teacher faces. I would say that the Google Meets at the high school are not happening in my experience and in the experience of several people who I've spoken with. So can you just articulate, what is the expectation? What should parents be expecting? Because they're also feeling somewhat disconnected from what their high schoolers are doing because of Google Classroom being just a student platform. And so parents don't know, like, do I need to yank my kid out of bed at 10? Or, is there going to be a regular schedule that's established, or what are the expectations there?
So there's a regular schedule that's established at the high school that's posted in terms of the schedule and how they do that Monday through Friday. In terms of the Google Meet, in terms of expectation, it's certainly not something that we can mandate that people have to use, particularly teachers. With the new guidance, though, we've certainly been offering and trying to provide as much PD for teachers so that they feel comfortable. And I think that's why you're seeing it ramp up at the lower grades. It wasn't in the beginning. And it really, a lot of it had to do with they just didn't have the skill set because it's not something that they use regularly, and those kiddos were not one-to-one. I also think that the high school are so used to the Google Classroom because then, they're normally in class with the teacher. So I think that too hasn't been a skill set of the teachers using video conferencing. So I do think that we're trying to be as flexible as possible with it. And I think that you are seeing it ramp up. I do see a comfort level, though, with high school teachers just within the Google Classroom because they've been using that. So to say it's a mandated expectation that they have to use it, we can't do that. But we're certainly trying to provide as much support. A lot of common planning groups are meeting together and sharing things. So I think that is why, and I'm glad to hear you're hearing that it is ramping up like that, particularly at the younger levels. But for now, that's the guidance that we've been given and tried to give as many examples of how they can do that as possible.
Other questions for Todd? Todd, I was at the last meeting, I brought up the issue of surveys and checking in with people to see how they're going. And I know that it's important to have individual schools reach out to their individual populations. I would want to hear or see something that was more comprehensive from the high school. It's one thing for a school committee member to hear from a few people here and there. How do we know what the general feeling is, the general sense of how things are going? And again, where it's important for individual schools to reach out, but I'm wondering if there should be some common questions across the schools so that we can look longitudinally at how things are going. What are the frustrations and the highs and the lows? What are the similarities? And the extent to which people feel that they can still contact a school administrator, teacher, with questions, so that Leah shared some things that she was hearing, and to me, some of the stuff that Leah was hearing should be addressed to a building principal or a teacher specifically. So how do we, as a district, get the sense of how things are going? Are people feeling that they're getting information, which is typically the less likely they are to share stuff with their parents about what they should be doing, etc. So has there been any thought given to that?
So are you asking for more of like a district-wide survey that would go out?
Either district-wide, I'm not necessarily district-wide, but coordination of the surveys that go out from the schools. Not that they shouldn't ask things that are specific to them, because I think if things come out through the school, we're more likely to get things back. They're more likely to get things back than if we do things as a district. I would just want to know if they feel the lines of communication are open. Do they feel that administration and teachers are being responsive? In addition to what's working well and what are some challenges you still have? So you see what I'm saying?
Oh, I do see what you're saying. What I wanted to do was, summarize and give a flavor from each of the schools that sent surveys out tonight. So I can certainly share the results of each school survey with you. because I certainly didn't, put everything out there on the table. I tried to give it a flavor.
Sure.
And again,
Maybe,
we tried to stagger them because obviously families are getting inundated with daily assignments and daily this and daily that. So,
but maybe at the next meeting on the 20th, we can look at that. What survey data you have?
Yeah, we just don't have all of the schools completed yet. So, we figured once we do that, teaching and learning together with the principals would put that together to share with the committee.
All right, so we'll do that. That'll be something for the next agenda. Elaine.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think I would worry too much about parents feeling overwhelmed with a survey. I haven't heard a ton of feedback recently. I think people are figuring out what works for them. And in some cases that means not engaging. But the one thing I have heard consistently over and over again now is that nobody wants to complain because they know how hard that everybody in every position with regards to school is working. They're like, we know everyone's working really hard and they're doing the best they can, but this isn't working for me, or I'm really frustrated by this piece. And I think that giving people an outlet to be able to communicate that, especially anonymously, I think people are actually looking for that. And I think they would be welcome to see that email as opposed to, being overwhelmed that there's another email in their inbox.
Thank you. Brooke, I'm sorry. I had to.
Actually,
go ahead.
Todd actually put on the table a lot of what I was going to ask him to put out, and through Leah's questioning and such. So then I thought, oh no, he got it. He said everything. The only thing that's missing here, Todd, that I know that you haven't alluded to tonight was I know that teaching and learning with your guidance has been working on guidance documents, and I think that that's been very helpful. And I know that you, for example, all met with Joan the other day, and we were looking at creation of guidance documents for our guidance counselors, for example, or whatever. So that I would just want the school committee to know that that is also a huge underpinning for a lot of the work that's being done right now. And the surveys, I just want to go back and touch base on that too. Again, our principals and our administrative team work so well together, and they continue to do that. And I'm so grateful that our relationships have been so strong before this even happened, so that we're able to still continue to do that really good work right now. And we call meetings like within less than 12 hours, and we will pull meetings together and bring everybody to the table. And we did the same thing with the surveys. And so that every school really is kind of sending out its own survey, but really they come together and create it. They do that even with all of our memos, and they have now for the last 4 years. They collectively get together and they craft the memo so that all principals, even though their memo is tweaked to their buildings, it really has, in essence, all the same information, so that we across the district still continue to work for that level of consistency. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Stowe or Lancaster or Bolton, you're all getting the exact same message. So same thing with the surveys. Thank God, great job, great job. You guys worked so well. Thank you.
Like I said, I can't even imagine. I've said this to Brooke and a number of colleagues that are also retired. I'm glad I'm retired. I know I could do this, but I don't know that. Looking at it, it's so much. And I appreciate all the work that you do and the thought and everything. And it's good to get the feedback, to know what we're doing that's working. And especially if we don't know what the future holds and we may be in a similar situation moving forward, how we can do better at what we're doing. But thank you.
This kind of goes back to the citizens' comments tonight, and I think that 50,000 foot level, I think much of what she said at the beginning of of her citizens' comments, I think we take to heart, and I think we've already had that very discussion around the administrative tables or screens. What happens if we are back in the same position? And so we think about that constantly. How can we constantly improve our efforts? How can we up our game a little bit more? How can we, and I would also say too that Todd alluded to this, but those K-5 teachers, this is so out of their realm, because this is not how K-5 teaches, and it's so hard, and I've stopped in at every staff meeting, well, not every, at every building. I don't stop in every single staff meeting because there are too many, but for I've stopped in to chat with every single staff, and it's those K-5 right now that the challenge is just huge, because it just so goes again. You're so used to being close to the child, and this doesn't really. it's just so not natural, so, but hats off to all of our teachers, and again, teacher appreciation, oh my gosh. And I've said to them all, like, our pride right now in the Neshoba Regional School District is just, it's just, we're bursting with pride at the work that our staff is doing right now. It's really unreal. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you. Without objection, I'd like to move to the next agenda item, which is the business manager update. Pat.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm just going to go right through these kind of quickly, and if you want to ask me questions at the end, I think, as far as time goes, it's probably the best way to do it. The Department of Revenue has certified our E&D at $2,266,665. And we received that about a week ago, and I can go into that a little bit deeper if anybody wants more information. But there is some information in the audit document that kind of gives you a flavor of how they come at that number. And I can...
Pat, can we just put on the table too, that's as of July 1st, 2019.
Yes, that's as of July 1st, 2019.
So, Pat, is that I was talking to Brooke earlier. So that is what they certified it at. But we have some things that we're taking out of that, correct? For this?
Correct.
Yes.
But that number has already taken into account that money was reserved for fiscal year 20 budget. And I think that's part of one of the pieces that is always confusing to people.
Okay.
It's a formula, and it takes a little bit of time to understand it. And I think that maybe if we have a little bit more time in another meeting, it would probably be better.
Let's put it on the agenda, because here's my concern, that the towns look at this and say, oh, the school have, $2.25 million. But that's what's certified, but there's other considerations.
Exactly.
There's OPEB in there. There is the K money is in there. There's all kinds of things that are in there.
Right.
So
can we do a deep dive on this at the next meeting, please? If
Sure.
that's okay. Can people wait till the next meeting to do a deep dive on E&D, Steve?
My only question was, how close was this to your original estimates?
Pretty close.
Yeah, spot on.
Like almost spot on. Yeah.
Right.
I know it goes in and it comes out.
Yeah, but I don't want this to be the headline, because that's not what the bottom line is going to be.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly right.
All right.
Right. There were a couple of things that we talked about that are in that number, and they actually flush out in fiscal year 21. As far as the budget update goes, the transportation percentage that we're going to be talking about a little bit later is still in question. We will have some money at the end of the year. We're trying to hit that that goal of 800,000 that we used to fund the budget in fiscal year 20. Brooke has alluded to that many times, and I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to try to hit that target if we can, because we know that we have things in the future that are going to affect E&D probably dramatically. We're waiting for some guidance from the state on out-of-district tuition payments to the private institutions, whether we should be making full payment or partial payments based on services. And then again, this is a double-edged sword, because the payments that we make for these out-of-district placements is part of our circuit breaker money, which we use as a revenue source. We're waiting for some final revenue numbers from the state. Again, they're usually the last things to come in. And then we're also waiting for the final assessment numbers for school choice and charter school. I'm just going to move. Does anybody have any quick questions on that? Okay. Does anybody? Oh, okay. As far as the audit goes, you have the audit in your packet. And I think it, in that audit, you can see that the condition of our finance is pretty good for the end of the year. Seeing it as our E&D was a little bit higher. But again, there's a reason for that, and there was funds transferred from revolving funds into E&D, and that's why it's inflated a bit. But we are actually in pretty good shape as far as that as of the end of fiscal year 19. We'll be inviting Cheryl Burke from Melanson and Heath come in and take a deep dive and give you a little bit more information and probably answer any of the detailed questions that you may have about her process and what some of the numbers mean, even to address any of the OPEB issues and any questions that you might have in regards to that. The last thing on the list was the bus percentage, the payment to the bus company, Dee Bus company. We've joined together with 14 area communities that are also serviced by Dee Bus. And in this collaborative group, we're trying to come up with a negotiated percentage for how much we would pay them for their services to maintain the fleet, so that we still have a bus company in September, should we need them. Hopefully we will need them. And I think that Brooke is going to elaborate on that a little bit more. But if you have any questions about it, I can give you a few answers unless Brooke wants to.
I'll just pipe in really quickly just to kind of let you know. So again, this is one of those things that it was clear to us once we got into it. It's much more complex, and like we say, the Department of Labor has been involved, the Department of Revenue, the DESE. So all of those three areas, and then they put us into these groups, these collective regional groups, and then inside of those regional groups, there were three lead negotiators chosen, and those lead negotiators continue to keep us apprised, probably just about every other day, I'd say, Pat. Pat and I still take in meetings with regards to this, so this is an ongoing thing. And I would agree with Pat. I think one of our biggest concerns right now is that we need those bus companies and we need those bus drivers when we're ready to reopen. So it's an important function that we're taking care of right now.
And one other thing that I might like to mention too is, again, it's that double-edged sword, that if we don't make payment for transportation services, then it's going to reduce transportation reimbursement in fiscal year 21. So that passes on a problem. So we're hoping to come up with a good percentage that collectively as a group we can all agree to, and that's what we'll pay them.
So just a quick question. So we're going to wait until the next meeting to vote on accepting the audit report after we hear from the person from the audit company. Is that correct?
Brooke?
Yeah, I would have thought that we would have waited until you heard directly from the auditor before you.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll move that to the next agenda as well. Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. Questions for Pat? Okay. Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
All right. Old business. The chair update. I'm going to move the discussion about the Boston Public Schools resolution to the next meeting, if there's no objection. Let me see, I talked about the surveys. We had, and this is, I think, an oversight on my part, the MASC policy manual. I thought that we approved every single section that was revised, and I thought we had taken a vote on the entire manual, which we did not. And I went back and I looked, and back in December, we did the approval for the final section, Section J, and then we should have taken a vote to adopt the revised manual and rescind the previous one. So what if, since we have approved all there is a vote that approved all of the sections at previous meetings, what I would like to do tonight, if there is no objection, is to hear a motion to approve the revised manual. Are there any objections to doing that? Steve, do you want to make that motion?
Yes, I move to adopt in form the NRSD revised policy manual and rescind the previous version.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Okay, Brett?
Yes.
Kathy, yes. Mary? Joseph? Mary,
Yes.
you're muted. Joseph, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Steve?
Yes.
Mike? And Elaine?
Yes.
And Mary, did you say yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I did,
And,
yes.
and Leah had to step out for a minute, so she will return, but it passes in any event. Thank you. And now, Alita, if you could connect with Dorothy and send them what they need to have, we can get the ball rolling. You're muted.
I don't think she has anything to say.
I don't have anything to say.
Oh, I thought you were muted. Okay, thank you. All right.
Doing this, I know.
So let's see. So the other thing, it's sort of a policy meeting update. Last week, Leah and I met with Anne Marie to talk about some of the considerations based on what we discussed at our previous meeting. And one of the things that Anne Marie will be putting together is an administrator's handbook. And this will be, well, Anne Marie, I'll let you talk about what it is, because you can probably do it more concisely than I. Administrator's handbook.
Well, I'm not sure how concise I can be, but
give it a shot.
Basically, my charge is to put together a handbook that will be available to each of the principals to be a go-to resource, so that they'll, at the beginning of it, will be a flow chart. When this sort of thing happens, this is where you look for guidance. These are the people you can look to for guidance, and these are the policies that might impact upon that particular thing. Include perhaps a template for an investigation report, you know, what it should include, what it should kind of look like, all subject to change, of course, at our summer retreat. But basically to have a resource so that people will have, the administrators will have a place to go to say, if this happens, this is what I should be doing. It's not very articulate.
No, but we'll have more information about it. The idea is that a consistent protocol and process, and also guidelines for working together. This whole idea of having to be a team approach, and when in doubt, you know, who are you going to call, type of thing. So we'll have more information about that. The focus of the policies that we have, I don't think it was the policies that we had concerns about. It was the protocols and procedures. So we will be looking at those, asking questions about them, and then putting them all in one place for administration, for teachers, for school committee, so that we know which procedures and protocols go with what policies. And these can pertain to any policy that should have an associated protocol. I mentioned last time the overnight field trip policy is broad and general, but the protocol is very specific. And so we need to be aware of those things. So that's some of the work that we will be doing. We had the high school safety committee provide the policy subcommittee with some input relative to what they call the sexual harassment policy. The issue of sexual harassment is a part of the policy that we have for harassment, So we will be consulting with Mike Macaro to have him look at those two documents and see if we need to make changes to the policy or are there things that we have to do relative to procedures. So that's another thing the policy subcommittee will be doing. Also, we will be working on the role of the student rep to the school committee. So that's just sort of a summary of what the policy committee's been doing. Elaine, I don't know if that addresses the issue, the question that you asked for Steve. I think that those protocols are going to come from administration, but after there is or in conjunction with any training that they have done, and the creation of this administrator's handbook, which, I mean, we know about it. It hasn't been shared with the district-wide administration as of yet. Let me see, surveys, got it, manual. And then I think I'll put this on the agenda for the next meeting on the 20th, a discussion about how we want to proceed with the superintendent's evaluation for the 2019-2020 school year. And so I'll just leave that for the next agenda, if that's okay with everybody. Seems like it's fine. Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Now we have the superintendent's update.
Thanks. And I'll try to go through this quickly because I know that we still have to go into executive session. MSBA, just so that you know, I'm in regular contact with them right now. One of the things that we've discussed is the notion of starting our eligibility period a little bit later than June 1st, and just in light of everything. And I think I'm very comfortable with that. My concern right now is that if those town meetings don't happen until September and then we end up having to do something else later, I don't have a lot of time between September and February 26th to do whatever. So I think that we need to push back a little bit on that time period, the eligibility period. MSBA has been outstanding to work with. I'm doing the other work that I'm doing right now is kind of just like helping to support the ongoing efforts that we're doing. So there's nothing really of note to report, but they have just continued to be outstanding. So I'll put that forward. I expect that it'll be approved because I've already been in discussions with them. So that's just an FYI. The second thing I put in there, I see that we missed Alita, we missed 2021 on our next global travel. Number two, I have concern. I was hearing, and Todd and I have spoken about this, that Steve Mnuchin mentioned the other day that they're thinking that they're really going to discourage any global travel in the new year until after sometime after 21. And so that makes us concerned, and I think that we probably should have some discussion because I believe we've got, now Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, I think at least two non-domestic travel excursions already on plate for next school year, and I think one's in February, and I think I'm just incredibly concerned right now. So I'm not asking for us to have discussion on that right now, but I would like to bring that up possibly for discussion purposes at the next school committee meeting. Payment for employees, we've done this. This will be our third time that I'm asking that we take a motion tonight to support the payment of our hourly people now until the end of the school year. So we did it the first time until the first date was given, and now we're asking for it to be right until the end of the school year. So I put that out there. I don't know if anyone has any questions on it or not. Happy to answer anything. If not, I would appreciate you taking a motion up right now.
Okay, Steve, you want to make the motion?
I move that all full-time and non-exempt hourly employees on paid active status at the time the school closure began and remain on paid active status for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year be paid their regular compensation and benefits.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. Brett? You
right?
I beg your pardon? Okay.
We couldn't understand you, Brett. I couldn't anyway.
Brett, what's happening?
He abstains.
I think that's abstaining. My wife.
That he has
Let me go through. All right, I vote yes. Mary? Mary?
Yes.
Okay, Joseph?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Brett?
Brett had to abstain, has to abstain.
Oh, abstain, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's what he was trying to say. Sorry, your Wi-Fi was kind of cutting in and out, sorry.
Sorry, okay. All right, so that passes, and thank you.
The next one is just to acknowledge our National Nurses Day, which we've already talked about, Teacher Appreciation Week, School Lunch Hero Day, you heard us talk about that, and our Administrative Assistant Day was April 22nd. So we just want to say thank you to everyone. I just want to say, I just put one or two comments out on the table. We're so fortunate, I think, to be taken care of by some of the very best in the field in our school district. I just want to thank everyone for their commitment, their kindness, their dedication, to the work that they do within our district. I think that we're such a strong district as a result of the people that are the underpinnings that keep us strong. And I just want to thank everyone for being such a critical part of our school district. The last thing is central office access. As of this Wednesday, as of today, per order of Governor Baker, all individuals who enter a public building must be wearing a mask. Masks and gloves are currently provided by NRSD at central office. However, we encourage that individuals use their own where possible. Masks should be worn while in the building. Gloves should be worn if staff are not working at their personal space or office. The use of hand sanitizer and frequent hand washing should be done upon entering and leaving the building, and only employees of the district should be entering the building. No family members or members of the public are allowed at this time. So that's just an update for central office. And that's it. Our work really is being, right now, is what you heard tonight, whether it's SPED or nursing or food services, or it's been very, very busy, but I am so proud of our school district. I am so proud of our children, of our parents, of our staff for getting us through this right now, and just this navigating these incredible, incredible times. And people are dealing with so much, and I could not be prouder of NRSD, just an amazing school district. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions for Brooke? Seeing none, can we have a motion on the consent agenda? Steve? Steve, unmute.
I'm unmuted.
Now you are.
Oh, okay. I move to approve the consent agenda of May 6, 2020, containing the warrants of May 8, 2020, and the meeting minutes of April 22nd and April 27th, 2020.
All right, can I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, I think I'll give that one to Leah. Okay, Brett? Kathy, yes. Mary?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Elaine?
I have to abstain.
Okay, Leah?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Brett? Brett? Can you unmute? Did you want to vote about the consent agenda? Thank you. Brett says yes. All right,
Yes.
thank you. Items for next agenda. This is what I have so far. A continuation of the special education report with Joan. Todd will come back and talk to us about the surveys and provide us with some more results from the surveys. We'll talk further about global travel for the next school year. And We'll have a discussion about the 2019-2020 superintendent evaluation process. And we will also do a deeper dive on E&D and what the certified number means and what the actual amount will end up being. And then we have the audit budget, the audit report for 2019. Was there anything else? Joseph?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I apologize, and maybe it's something that we put over to our first meeting in June, because you seem to have a fairly full agenda for the next meeting. But I would like to revisit the school building project and what we're going to need to do at town meeting. I went back and looked over the language we approved back on the 16th, and according to what the MSBA wants, it's a little bit more involved than just moving the warrant as moving the article as printed in the warrant. So the motion itself has a little more language than the article itself. So I just wanted to go over that, make sure we're all on the same page, because it's going to require unanimous consent of all three communities. And I would like to have a discussion on the language of the motion that we have to present at our town meetings, because our liaison to the towns has indicated that he's very confident that town meetings will take place in June. So
Okay, so can we put that on the agenda too? So how do you want to see that on the agenda? What should we call it, Joseph?
for lack of a better term, I would say just discussion on the language of the motion that we have to present at town meeting. They said I think there's some issues, not some issues, but there's some items that could raise some red flags with certain voters. So I want to have a discussion on that.
Brooke, would it be okay with you if I had Joseph connect with you so you can identify the salient issues he wants to make sure?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay. So now it looks like we need a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and go into executive session. Okay, I think, Steve, you have the motion?
Yes, I move that we adjourn the regular NRSD school board meeting and move to go to executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. Unit A, to include Superintendent Clenchey, Human Resources Director Anne Marie Stoica, Bolton Town Administrator Don Lowe, and District Legal Counsel Michael Macaro. School Committee member Brett Collins will be excused from executive session. Committee will adjourn in executive session.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Leah. Okay, Brett. Kathy, yes. Oh, Brooke, what?
I had a quick question. Todd, I'm not sure, did you want to say?
No, I did not have his name.
Okay, good enough. I just wanted to double check.
Sorry, Todd, you can't stay.
I haven't been in any of them to start, so.
Yes.
Okay, so motion to adjourn and enter in. Brett? Yes?
Brett, say yes.
Kathy, yes. Mary?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
Thank you. And those of you who are leaving, enjoy the rest of your evening. It's good to see
Stay healthy, everybody.
We'll see you soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Stay safe.